Do you know the language you've been learning, but you still can't understand it? My name is Jamie. I'm a language coach. Let's talk about why this happens and what you can do instead to learn to understand your target language. To do this, let's start out with a little something that I like to teach my clients in the method, but I'm going to share with you right now for free. So one of the first things that I teach my clients is to break up a language into multiple language skills. Listening to and understanding a language is one of those skills. Therefore, if you want to improve your ability to understand your target language, you have to intentionally focus on building up that skill. There are tons of different ways to know a language, but if you can't understand it, that's one skill that you are lacking in and should really put some effort into improving. One of the reasons why this happens is because of how language learners these days expect language learning to happen, and it's not our fault. While a ton of modern day language learning apps like Duolingo, for example, are really good at making language learning accessible and fun and easy, it really teaches us to see language learning a different way than is actually helpful. When we're using Duolingo, we learn to tap a couple of buttons every single day and not lose your streak. Losing your streak is the worst possible thing you could do, so may as well just open up the app real quick, get 10 XP, and go about your day. You might not really be learning that much, but what's important is you feel good about it. Unfortunately, this is not at all how real-life language learning is. To be totally honest, when you are first building listening comprehension skills, it sucks. It's really frustrating, it's exhausting. You don't understand anything. Like even the most simple words and phrases that you might have known for years, you still might not be able to understand them. And so it can be really, really difficult to keep going when you first try it and it sucks and you think something's wrong with you. In reality, the only way to get better at listening comprehension is to stick to it and work on it. Even though it sucks at first, as long as you are consistent with it, it'll get better. What does this look like exactly? Instead of expecting to get instantly better right that second, you need to be able to wait and delay that gratification. When you first start out, you might only be able to listen to like 30 seconds of audio before you're just exhausted and can't hear anything else. That'll feel really, really frustrating, but it's okay. Training your ear takes time. That said, instead of throwing yourself into an audio and getting frustrated with yourself for not understanding any of it, no matter how much time you spend with your language, keep it short, keep it small, keep it easy. If you can only spend 30 seconds at a time per day listening to the audio, just do 30 seconds. Now, the key here is to put it away and then come back to it the next day. You can do things like reviewing that audio and seeing which words you can pick up that you couldn't pick up the day before, or you can move on to another audio at the same level. Either way, the important thing is that you are doing it slowly but surely. So don't throw yourself into like an hour and burn yourself out. Commit to what you are able to commit to, whatever that looks like. When you start to get worn out and tired and frustrated, put away, come back to it tomorrow. Do that over and over again, and I guarantee you, give it just a few days, and all of a sudden your brain will be picking up a lot more. 15 minutes a day doesn't sound like enough, but believe me when I say that if you do it consistently every day, every other day, whatever it is, those minutes really build up until all of a sudden you've put in 2 hours. In this way, it's kind of like the Duolingo idea of just do a little bit and feel satisfied. Except this way, it's a little bit more productive. The next thing you need to understand about how to understand a new language is to be aware that every time somebody says a sound, uses a sound, says a word, it's going to sound different. It's going to sound different between different people, and it's also going to sound different coming from one person depending on a whole bunch of factors. The way we create different sounds when we speak can vary depending on our mood, our context, any noise, any background noise that's happening around us, the topic of the conversation, any number of things. And because these sounds can change depending on these variables, and this is not on purpose at all, it's just a thing that we do, there are almost infinite possibilities for how any individual sound will sound. Now, this is a new concept because with our native language, over the years, our brains have figured out the differences between those sounds, so we don't even think about it. We don't even realize it. Our brains do it completely independently. Now, when you're starting with a new language, you have to actively learn how to do this. You can't listen to one audio clip of a word in an app and think that that's exactly how it's going to sound every single time. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, the audio clips that you get in language apps tend to be robotic, tend to be a little slow, sometimes very, very clear. People don't speak slowly, clearly, like a robot. People speak in so many different ways, so it's our job to train our brains to understand which sounds are supposed to be the same and which ones actually signify a different sound or a different word. And fortunately, just like what happened with our native language, our brain just does this naturally, just figures it out for us. But we have to give ourselves the opportunity. We have to give our brains the opportunity to learn and register these differences. How do we do this? The best way to do this is to expose yourself to as many different types of audio as you can. This can mean different accents depending on the language that you're learning. This can mean different ages of speakers because young children speak much differently than older adults. This can be different scenarios, the difference between one person and 10 people. Different moods, different topics, different kinds of audio, like the difference between a reality TV show and like a serious drama thriller. All these different variables can really heavily impact how words are said and how sounds are created. And yes, at first it does make things harder, but if you keep working on it, again, your brain will be able to pick up the sounds and understand so much more variety in speakers and contexts than you do right now. For example, the most functional experience that I have with learning Spanish was when I lived in Spain for 9 months. Obviously, I got really good at understanding Spanish while I was there because I had to in order to survive. The problem is that while my ears and brain are really attuned to the Spanish that they speak in Spain, Castilian Spanish, if I'm not in Spain and I hear Spanish, it's probably not going to be Castilian Spanish. It could be Cuban Spanish, it could be Mexican Spanish, it could be any type of Spanish. And because I don't have the broad experiences with the different types of Spanish, I find it really hard to understand different kinds of Spanish. Castilian Spanish, I understand really, really well. Everything else, I have to work really, really hard. That said, if you want to be absolutely sure that you're going to understand the target language, no matter where that person comes from or what scenario you're in, listen to as many different types of audio as you can, and eventually you'll be able to understand it. The next thing that you need to know about how to understand a new language is to be aware of how you like to learn. Now, of course, I go a lot more in depth with this in the method, but basically, if you struggle with listening comprehension and understanding the spoken version of your language, there's a good chance that you might be a visual learner. What does this mean? I'm also a visual learner, so that means that I prefer to learn the language through looking. I prefer to read it. I prefer to have things written down on a board. I prefer to have pictures of things. My brain works best when I am looking at the thing that I need to learn, and it can go into my brain that way. Even here on YouTube, when I'm watching YouTube videos, I always put the captions on because that helps me to understand whatever is going on in that video. If I don't have the captions on, I'm gonna miss a lot, just because I don't learn very well with my ears. So if you're a visual learner, then it might feel really, really difficult to focus on listening. You might get easily distracted, you might get easily bored, you might have a hard time focusing. It just might feel a lot more difficult than reading or any other version of visual learning. Now, this does present an obstacle, but there's a solution. And that solution is to find something written. This could be a transcript, this could be captions or subtitles, this could be finding an audiobook where you can read the book while you're listening to it. And no, it's not cheating. The caveat here is as long as what you're reading matches the language that you're trying to learn. It's not going to be really very helpful if you are trying to improve your listening skills listening to an audio clip and then you're reading that audio clip in English or your native language. So in my case, I might listen to an audiobook in Spanish and then also find the transcript in Spanish to read along. This will keep me a lot more engaged and a lot more interested and motivated to keep moving forward. As opposed to just kind of sitting there, closing my eyes and trying to focus. That doesn't work. I get distracted. The next thing to know about how to understand a new language is to make sure that you are listening to things that are engaging to you and not necessarily what you're supposed to use. There are tons of voices on the internet that will tell you to listen to this, watch this, do this. But in reality, those are just guidelines. There's no rules for any of this. So for me, as a Spanish language learner, I've been told 1,000,000 times to watch telenovelas, which is basically like reality TV. But the thing is, I absolutely hate telenovelas. I find them incredibly annoying and I don't enjoy it. So when people have told me to watch telenovelas and I have tried, I hit such a strong wall because I hated doing it. I could not stand watching it. So if you are trying to listen to something but you don't actually enjoy it, you're not going to do it. Instead, find audio that matches 2 criteria. Number 1, make sure that audio is interesting to you. And number 2, find audio that is at your level. Make sure that this audio uses vocabulary that you understand for the most part. There can be some like new words and phrases, that's totally cool. But you don't want to jump into an audio with completely new vocabulary because you're definitely not going to understand anything then. While it's great to learn vocabulary while you are listening, with this specific video talking specifically about listening comprehension, you don't want to spread yourself too thin and make yourself try to learn vocabulary at the same time as trying to improve your listening comprehension. If you want to do this intentionally, that's totally fine, but right now, if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you really need to build up on your listening comprehension skills specifically, and if that's the case, then don't worry about new vocab just yet. Honestly, I'm sure your vocab is just fine. Let's work on understanding the vocab that's already in your brain. The basic idea is that you want to take yourself from where you are right now, which is probably listening to audio and not understanding a single thing, and it's really frustrating and it just feels like a waste of time, to listening to audio about subjects that you enjoy by, speakers that you enjoy, and you can get into the flow of just listening to the language and training your brain to function in the language. If you keep at it, you will eventually get to a place where it is effortless. You don't really have to think about it. You just turn it on and listen, and you are engaged and entertained, and you are maintaining or improving upon your target language. And to bring this video full circle, the next thing that you need to know about how to understand a new language is to make sure you are not spending all of your time with fun, easy apps, and instead making sure you're focusing on resources and strategies that will actually benefit your listening comprehension. These fun, easy apps are totally fine. There's nothing wrong with them as long as you're intentional about your use of them. I don't want you to expect these apps to be more than they're meant to be. Instead, you need to be using resources and strategies that'll help you get to a place in your listening comprehension where you feel good about it. Fortunately, I have a ton of videos on this specific subject. I would suggest starting with this one. It's an oldie but a goodie. That video will teach you tons of different options to work on your listening comprehension skills specifically. So if you're ready to start understanding the language that you're learning, I will see you in that video.